Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Mark Patterson here. And as you can see, as much as I love my backyard, this is a much better studio view. So, got down here on the island, went fishing this morning. Had a very good morning. The trout bite was great, redfish bite's good, caught one flounder. So it was a pretty good morning. And when I got back to the house here, I had a couple of messages on Messenger that said, hey, you're enjoying your videos. Can you do a video on lure selection? And kind of give some newbies in the area some tips. And I thought, I'll do that. I'm sure all this information is out there already anyway, so it's not like there are any secrets. But I'll just go over some general ideas of what I do and have some shameless plugs for my sponsors and the sponsors that sponsor the Classic, because I do actively seek out people that already use their products and I know they work and I can vouch for them. So let's just start off. First thing you need to know is always rig up your stuff the night before. Morning on the water, not the time. You need to be ready to go when you get on the water. So here's what I normally do. I normally go with 3 or 4 rods already rigged up, and this is how I'll do it. First thing in the morning I'll start out throwing top water. This is a small company. It's called Overcast Lures. Overcast, you can look them up online, Google them. What I like about Overcast Lures is their lures have a really low sounding rattle inside them. They cast like a rocket. They turn over really nicely, so they cast like a javelin. They don't tumble as much, which I like. I always use about 1.5 feet, 18 to 20 inches of 15-pound leader tied to the braid. It doesn't get kinked up as much when you cast. What I do is I try to use the smallest size top water to start with. The reason being, if the bait fish are a little bigger, the fish will still eat a smaller one. If the bait fish are small and you're throwing something big, you may not get that much of a response just because they're keying on that size. And again, this just works for me. I'm sure somebody out there is like, well, I was throwing a 15-inch plug. Well, congratulations, but that's an outlier. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying on an average, I'm trying to help the most people that I can. So small lures to start. I like the Overcast lures, as I said. The reason being is they already come with stronger saltwater hooks on them. There are other lures out there, skitterwalks, spooks, and yes, they do make a saltwater edition, but these already do come with them. They're very affordable. They come in a variety of colors. I always like to throw a lighter, brighter color. That's just me, because again, I think this is a easier scene as it goes through the water. Make sure you pick out a rod that's a little stiffer, at least for me. Gives you a little bit easier action on the lure. So Overcast lures start out in the top water. I try to catch my trout first. And my theory is, once I put my sunglasses on, trout bite's pretty much over for me. So hopefully I get my trout, get it early. Then I would normally switch over to trying to catch the redfish. I do that one of 2 ways normally. Number one, I love these voodoo shrimp. They're made by Egret Baits. I just get the ones that are in the natural color. Again, I go with, I think it's 3.5 inches, the smaller size. Again, it's just smaller, always catches fish for me, it seems to. So, again, this is the natural color. It works great. You can also, this will also pick up, everything eats shrimp. You'll get a lot of trout on this too, but this time of year, the redfish are up there really keying in, I think, on the last shrimp of the season they can easily get to once the water's still warm. And these guys work great. They work great also under a popping cork. But a couple of things about a popping cork. Mark Lozier, who I'll give him great credit for this line, I'll never forget it, said something that was so smart. He said, a popping cork that you don't pop is just a bobber. He's right. Make sure you know how to work that popping cork to give that chugging sound. Your lure goes up, suspends, up and suspends. This works great. And that's my phone. Sorry about that. Now through the magic of video, I'm back. So, popping cork, make sure it pops. I use about an 18 to 20 inch leader. The water back there is pretty shallow inshore. Longer than that, you're not really popping it, you're just burying it in the mud. If it doesn't work on a popping cork, if the tide's a little lower and you come around the corners and you see fish feeding in front of creeks, take your popping cork off and just cast this up in the creek and barely hop it along on the bottom. Works great. So, voodoo shrimp, natural color. Then, for the flounder or redfish, and this will catch trout too, but I'm just trying to go through the water column, we have a member who makes striker jig heads, striker jigs. He will actually be at the Oak Island Classic. He makes these style jigs. I love these jigs. What's so special about them? He has a really good head design on them. They don't get hung up in the oysters as bad, and if they do, you can give them a little wiggle, and normally they'll wiggle out, and they sit really flat. I don't know if you can see this, but they sit. They want to stay balanced, which is nice. He has a short shank hook and a long shank. They're super sharp hooks. Trust me, I've hooked myself a couple of times almost. So they're super sharp. He's a very good guy. His name's Joe, and he'll be at the Classic. So if you want to pick these up, I normally throw a 1/4 ounce up to a half. He has some bigger jigs, but again, we're doing inshore. So I would use this. A white curly tail. If the lizard fish aren't too bad and the pinfish, I'll throw a gulp. If they are, I'll switch over to a Z-Man. But check out Joe and Striker jigs. Another lure that I'll use a lot for the flounder is boat up lures. They also make just a different jig head design. I like it because it sits more vertical in the water column. They have some really brightly colored feathers and stuff on them, and it really hops. If you're fishing for flounder, the great Jimmy Price taught me this. Remember, flounder are lying flat on the bottom. So they have a cylindrical, like a reverse view than your cone on your sonar. So flounder have a view like this. So make sure you give them a good hop. So this comes high up and settles back down. That way they can see it when it jumps up and they can come over and eat it. And flounder normally stay together. So if you catch 1 or 2 little dinks, don't just quickly leave the area. Beat it up pretty good. And they'll be super shallow this time of year right in front of those creek mouths. So again, Joe, striker lures, boat up lures, another option. Voodoo shrimp, overcast lures. Come on, it's looking good out there.